This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. So the July job numbers are out. You heard at the top of the hour. Unemployment rate, which is a meaningless number, but it's ticked down 3.9% from 4% in June. 157,000 jobs created, which was below estimates of about 40,000 more. But the economy is still clicking along. I mean, great news this week. Apple becoming the first company in the world to be valued at $1 trillion.
I know. So if you bought $1,000 worth of stock back in 1997, guess how much you'd have today?
How much?
$450,000.
I wish I could go back in time.
I mean, don't you?
We
Just
can't.
a $1,000 investment, you'd have $500,000 now.
Live in the moment, Amy. Forward. Like Stalin's army,
how is
always forward.
My GE stock. Oh, they're not on the market anymore.
For more on this topic and all things economy related, we're pleased to be joined by Scott the Cow Guy, Scott Shellady, Fox Business contributor. Scott. Also a very funny man.
I know.
Scott Shellady.
He's got great taste. He doesn't need a python jacket. He's got the cow jacket.
That's true. He doesn't, although he would look good. I think he'd look good in ostrich. Yeah. Scott, your reaction to the jobs numbers?
Well, it's depending on who you are, there's a little something for everybody. So there's something for the pessimist, there's something for the optimist. So put it in terms we all can understand. Some people will look at this report as the glass is half full. Some will look at it as the glass is half empty. I will say that I'm looking at it and just going to say that the glass is twice too big.
Exactly. The realist position. That's my position always as well.
So what do you think is the real unemployment number? Not 3.9%.
No, it's a lot. Yeah, Dan's exactly right. That's a meaningless number. It's higher than that. It's probably more towards 6 or 7% actually. And you know what? The real thing that really still bothers me is we still can't get any wage growth. I mean, that's got to be a huge problem. I mean,
it started to tick up a little bit, though. It started to tick up a little bit, though.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why that 3.9% is ridiculous, because it should be ticking up a lot of it if we really are at 3.9%, and it's not. So, and then also you have to take on 7 years of 0% interest rates. I mean, all the things that you would have thought would have had this economy on fire really haven't come to fruition. So I say that the economy is doing okay, but I still think it's fragile. And if we see the 10-year yield or the 10-year interest rate get above, say, 3% significantly for a decent amount of time, and if oil gets above $3 a gallon for a significant amount of time, I'd like to see how well the economy does and then throw some tariff worries in there. I just don't think we're as strong as people think. It's doing okay, but I think it could get knocked off track easy.
Well, I saw a report a few days ago that's saying wages are the highest they've been since 2008. Was that fake news?
Oh, no, I mean, that's not saying much, though. I mean, that's like being the tallest midget in the circus. I mean, that's okay, thank you. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. I would say, if you're an optimist, you're trying to say that there's so many jobs out there that they're advertising, but they can't find skilled enough, labor that's skilled enough to fill them. That's why they're saying that this jobs number is not good enough because of that. But at the end of the day, it's below the 12-month average, and that's indisputable. You can't say. So if you just look at the numbers, I don't really think it's that great. It's a disappointing Jobs Friday, and I think that we need to be on a better trajectory. And after that 4.1% GDP that we got, if that ticks down again too, we're just not as strong as people think, right? I mean, it's going okay, but we need to be stronger.
Rick Santelli, the Godfather. I don't know why all you guys who are on-air analysts have nicknames like mobsters, but the Godfather, Rick Santelli, was on with us earlier in the week, and asked him about his kind of greatest concern looking forward. And he suggested that while things like reblowing up the real estate bubble and the unfunded pension liabilities and college debt, those are all concerns, his biggest concern, greatest level of uncertainty, is about the fallout from the monetary policy, quantitative easing by central banks over the last decade. Is that the preeminent concern that you share?
Yeah, I mean, well, never in the history of money have we had the Federal Reserve so involved in our economies. And around the world, they still are very involved, especially in Asia. And so absolutely that's a problem. And Rick's a realist. He wants to just take the central banks out of everything, take the Band-Aid off quickly, have some businesses fail, and move on. And I think that there's a lot more merit to that point of view than anything else. But the politicians that do get involved are afraid to actually take the Band-Aid off quickly, so they like this drip, drip, drip of the slow pain, and so everybody kind of slowly but surely forgets. It's like frogs in boiling water. We need to get the central banks out of our back pockets, and that's been a huge problem. And we don't really know where we stand. And I think that really does trickle down to some of these numbers just not adding up. I mean, you just can't have 3.9% unemployment and not really have wages on fire. I mean, we had interest rates at 0% for 7 years, and we couldn't really get the housing market on fire. So there is something still wrong. There's a leak in the economic system, although we're doing okay. That's why I say it still could be kind of fragile.
Do you predict we're going to have a recession within the next 10 years?
10 years?
5?
2.
Well, now?
We're at. If this is a baseball game, this is recovery, if you could call it that. We're in the 7th inning, and however long you think that's going to last going forward, I mean, I just listened to some guys spouting off about how they think there's 5 to 10 more years left in this. That would be an historic run. Now, remember, Australia had a 27-year expansion, so I mean, things can go for a while. But at the end of the day, we're just not strong enough. I mean, we're averaging around a 3% GDP now, which is good for the year on average. And we'll wait and see how these growth numbers. But GDP is going to be a little more important than anything else in this jobs number, and this wage growth numbers are going to start to be more important. So those are the two big things that I'm watching. And I do think Rick's right. The central banks have got to get out of the system, and that's been a big problem. That
Australia expansion, though, that was during the heyday of Paul Hogan and Greg Norman. So, I mean, that's not going to go on forever. So let me ask
ruined by Chrissy Everett.
Exactly. So thinking about this sort of unevenness you're describing, it seems like the Trump administration, they do one thing that is pro-growth, and then they've got this other thing that really inhibits growth and certainly expands the depth of uncertainty. So on the one hand, deregulation, another big deregulation this week, pulling back on the Obama car emission standards. That's projected to save consumers as much as $500 billion in car prices when you go out to buy another car, not letting California drive car prices in this country anymore. That's a big deal. But on the same point, you've got companies like this nail company in Mid-Continent Nail in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. I work for the largest nail manufacturer in the United States, and we just had to idle one of our plants because of the 25% tariffs the Trump administration imposed on certain kinds of steel. We cut our workforce from 500 employees to 370. The extension of taxes, which is what tariffs are, is anti-growth. So you do some good things with respect to tax reductions and deregulation, that's pro-growth, and then you're doing some bad things, at least in the short term. It's undeniable. Taxes on foreign goods and nearly 60% of U.S. imports are inputs for U.S. firms. So this has an impact on economic growth in this country.
You're exactly right. And one of the biggest conundrums is that Donald Trump, no one before him has been able to at least buy this much political goodwill and capital, because there are people still standing behind him, and the farmers are some of them, that believe that these penalties and tariffs are going to only be in the short term, right? If they thought they were going to be a lot longer, I guarantee you there'd be a much bigger outcry. But he's been able to convince the people that are on the negative end of these overall things that he's been trying to put through that he thinks people don't know. So he has a little bit of time, and that's going to be very, very important. And the reason why I think he thinks it's going to be short is that, we have to look at everything globally, and I'm calling from London, but, if you look at what is happening in China, their economy is definitely slowing down, okay? And if Donald Trump is the Donald Trump that I think he is, he absolutely thinks that he's got the upper hand here, and he's got his foot the pedal to the metal. And he's not going to give up anytime soon. So these things might go on a little longer than people think, and we'll see how much of that political goodwill and capital he's going to have to spend.
Since you're in London, I wanted to give you a little history lesson about England. from Trump in Pennsylvania at the rally yesterday, just so you can sort of be more conversant with your British friends. So, Scott, hold on. Listen to Donald Trump for some instruction here.
I have great respect for the UK, United Kingdom. Great respect. People call it Britain. They call it Great Britain. They used to call it England, different parts. But the UK, great respect.
What part are you in?
Yeah. Did you know all that?
Yeah, well, I mean, there was obviously you saw the hullabaloo when he came over, and they thought that he was going to be talking about Brexit and trade deals. But at the end of the day, he just wanted to sit down with the Queen and teach her how to really decorate in gold leaf and what it really looks like to go over the top.
He is Scott Shellady, Fox Business contributor, the heir to the king of the Anglo-Saxon Empire. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, see you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.